Hoo-yah Navy Recruiting Command, NCC Totemate here for episode 8 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only, Admiral James Waters. Today we have some special guests. Within the career recruiting force, we have megastars. Today we have one with us, Senior Chief Curtis Vestall, Assistant Chief Recruiter here in NTAG Portland, as well as an upcoming superstar who's also known as a gunslinger based on his namesake, AE2 John Wayne Hedrich. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
Thank you for having us.
Ecstatic to be here. So we're in lovely Portland. Got the Admiral here. I think we're going to have a good time during this podcast. Okay?
Absolutely.
Sir, how you doing today?
I am fantastic in Portland. It's been amazing, just amazing so far. The weather in particular has been phenomenal. I left Memphis, which was, like 90-something degrees.
Too hot.
100% humidity, and you're here and, what is it, maybe 80 with very little humidity.
Yeah, you came in at the perfect time because it's just got sunny for the next couple months. It was rainy last week. So.
Yeah. And so far, I've been able to talk with the team here at the NTAG Portland headquarters and do an advancement for a couple of petty officers to first class. This morning, I had a chance to speak with the superintendent of schools for Vancouver, which is the city just north of Portland, along with their mayor and with some other of his team, and it was a great engagement, and it was very encouraging to me to see how supportive they were and how interested in getting our recruiters into their schools. So that was really
This is beautiful.
fantastic.
Hoo-yah, sir.
Yeah.
So, Senior Chief, NTAG Portland is rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
Blown at all cylinders.
100%.
Hoo-yah. I have a question about what recruiting principles do you live by that's kind of made you successful, not only here in Portland, but throughout your recruiting career?
Yeah, so, coming up from my hometown in Fort Worth, Texas. By the way, we're both from Fort Worth at the same time. So
Are you both Dallas Cowboy fans?
we are.
Let's go Cowboys.
Sorry about what happened last year.
But growing up, my mom is a big supporter. I know she's going to be watching today, so hello, Mom. With that being said, my mom taught me a lot of good morals out there. But the recruiting principles that I really live by is that everybody has a reason why they're going to join. And in my time in recruiting, I've been in recruiting for about 14 years now. I think most people will join. They always mask it with something else, but I think it's always that structure and discipline, right? They always come in, they're looking for a way to do something, or pay for something. Maybe life hasn't gone the way they need to, and you are that kind of focal point. So every time I have a new recruiter come in and they check in with me, and I've talked to him when he checked in and all these other new recruiters, I tell them the three main reasons is structure, discipline, but the most important and third part is always the recruiter. I always tell the people about my recruiting experience. Senior Chief Godinez, he was a SH2 at the time, and just being a genuine person with what he was, I lost my dad a year into my Navy career. All right. Now, normally in a recruiting aspect, it was always, you want to be, in the Navy, whatever the case may be, and you just get people in. But he showed up to my dad's funeral in his dress blues.
Yeah.
And that instantly right there, sorry, I got a little choked up on that one, but that instantly right there, that was somebody that I said, you know what, that's somebody that I want to be like.
Yeah, that's the truth of trust-based relationship and relationship. And, in my short time in recruiting, as I've, touched on many areas of the country, it's a consistent theme that it's about that relationship between the individual and the individual recruiter, right? They like you, they trust you, they get to know you before they ever know anything about the Navy. And that's, that's where it starts. Yeah, that really resonates with me.
Yep.
Thank you, Senior.
Yeah. I always told them, if you represent that structure and discipline, they have a moral obligation to you and a mutual respect that they want to be like you, and that's the reason why they join ultimately.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely.
AE2, you've been in recruiting for a very short time. How have you been so successful in this short amount of time?
Yes, Chief. You just got to be aggressively PDCing. Not aggressive while you're PDCing, but like aggressively find people like ACR is talking about. You got to be out there finding those people, and you can't really do that just by waiting for them to come to you. So as much as a lot of recruiters don't like it, you got to hit the phones and you got to be aggressively finding people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally resonates with me. People talk about the decrease in propensity, and they say it in, many people will say it in a way that's sort of an attempt to kind of excuse challenges in recruiting. What I think it means is it means that our work as recruiters is just different, right? Whereas in a high propensity market, you can have people walk in. You can focus on other things. In a lower propensity market, and I hope we talk a little bit about that for the Portland NTAG, which is different than the area of the country where you grew up, where both of you grew up, and it really demands active prospecting. And I agree with you 100%. I said it on the all hands call recently, but we've really got to focus on those things that lead to human contact. Right, it's the things you're either in the schools or at some career fair. Those are lower density than phone power, for example, right? Where you can march through the calls and get to somebody you're talking to, and then the magic is with you, right?
Yeah. Yes,
and my money is always on the recruiter once we make human-to-human contact.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Senior Chief, I have a question. Is it possible you can point out a specific example of an initiative that you've implemented since you've been here that have made wonders for this NTAG?
Yeah, so since I started taking over on the east side for the ACR role, one thing that I've always been a very big proponent on was meeting with the key influencer of the applicant and setting the initial appointment with that person. So whenever they set the appointment, and Petty Officer Hedrich, he gets many texts throughout the day of, please make sure you're contacting the parents, that key influencer. I usually want my recruiters to ask, if you were buying a house today, who would you call? And if they say my mom, my dad, my uncle, this person, whatever the case may be, I'm instantly having them call the recruiter, call that key influencer and set the appointment with the key influencer as well. This helps us reduce no-shows, and it also helps us whenever we talk to that key influencer. If we can get them on board, now you have two people selling the Navy to that applicant.
Yes.
And so I want that other person to be on my side so we can sell this applicant on the Navy and show that they really need this. And so anytime they do an appointment, especially if they're 17, 18, and really if they're 42, you always want that key influencer there, even if it's their wife. You want them to be there to help you. And that way you answer all those questions.
Yeah, that was a big change. That actually changed the entire blueprint sheet. When we meet with an applicant, we're doing the blueprint for them. Like, who is the most influential person in your life right now? What's their name and number?
I love that. That is such a great way, because it's really about relationships. And it also acknowledges how significant the decision to join the Navy is in a person's life. We tout the idea that this can change the trajectory of your life. It makes you a better version of yourself. That is a monumental kind of decision, especially for an 18-year-old to really think through. And it's so smart to get that influencer on board. Has your experience been that generally, when you've had a person that's interested in joining the Navy, when you do actually find that influencer, that the vast majority of the time it's a positive interaction with recruiters, or do you get some blowback on that?
I've had both. I would say the majority, it's all good stuff, And it doesn't even matter the age. Some people are 28 years old. You get their biggest influence in their life, and you call that person. They're like, "Oh, this is gonna be so great for them." You answer all their questions, and that, like you said, you got two people selling this person. Yeah. The Navy is a career.
Yeah, and it's also true, I think, that if you're talking about an 18-year-old and you're talking to their parents, the specific things that influence a parent into saying, "Why wouldn't you join the Navy?" are somewhat different than the things that necessarily directly influence that young person, right? Where, a parent is going to be might be more influenced by the fact that they can use the GI Bill after service to graduate from college with no debt, when that 18-year-old isn't quite thinking through all of that and the lifetime it takes to pay off $160,000, well, maybe not a lifetime, but the years it takes to pay off the $160,000 or so that some colleges can leave you in debt.
Yes, sir. We are. So, Senior Chief, Portland is a unique area. Are there certain unique characteristics that you had to implement being here that you never had to implement during your course of your career as a career recruiter?
To an extent, Portland is definitely it's definitely a lot different than what I realized it was going to be. Growing up in Texas, you always heard different things about Portland, Oregon, and it's been a wonderful city out here. Honestly, it's definitely been something that I was fully in shock with, because I was like, wow, the greenery, the whole nine. The people are very friendly, more than I would probably say sometimes in Texas. I joke that people downtown, in downtown Dallas, people would come up and, various homeless or whatever, and they'd ask you for money. Here, these homeless down here, they'll ask you questions and talk to you and tell you thank you for your service. So it's definitely been a little bit different.
Yeah, I had a couple of those today. Talk to me about how thankful they were for us.
Yeah. So it's definitely a little bit different. But as far as coming here for the recruiting aspect, I always tell my recruiter, just like he was talking about, be aggressive. Be aggressive in that approach, and don't be afraid to ask them, are you ready to do this? Don't be afraid to ask them, what's stopping you right now? Who do I need to talk to? Who is this? Who is that? And so just implementing that aggressiveness and really showing them that aggressiveness of just asking that question, are you ready? Why? Why not? And that's something where I think a lot of Oregonians are kind of laid back and they like to think about that kind of stuff. So the two Texans in here, you got to be aggressive with them and say, hey, are you ready to do this? This is the Texas way.
Right.
We just jump right into it. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, part of effective prospecting is not just dialing the phone and speaking into it. It's getting to asking for the appointment, asking for that time to sit down and actually talk.
Yeah.
Right? To really get into what is it going to be in the Navy, right? And answer questions.
Sir, and you can't. The main thing with phone power, you can't just go into it without being positive. Like every single person I call, this person has joined the Navy. If you don't have that mentality, you're not going to be good at phone power.
Yeah.
I love it. So AE2, my question for you is, you've been successful very fast in recruiting. There's some recruiters out in the nation that are trying to find their way. What advice do you have for those recruiters?
If you're not a hometown recruiter, you're only going to live in that city for 3 years. Be aggressive. Make those people know you're the Navy recruiter. You definitely want to set up stuff with the school. The schools are hard to get into. Trust me, I've had the same issues, but you need to chip away at those schools and get in there. Like you got one kid who joined the Navy and he's not even getting a bonus. Say he's only getting the GI Bill. You need to show up at the award ceremony with the $185,000 GI Bill scholarship check. Be present for that school. You just got to chip away at them.
Yeah, I think when people actually talk with sailors, it is game changing, right? It's the human relationship. Mm-hmm. People, when they get divided into groups and they don't talk to each other, is where hate develops and where friction develops. When you break that down by just being you with them in engaging in the school where you can, as much as you can, and being aggressive in those relationships, and then calling in support from leadership at the NTAG or nationally, right? One of the primary reasons that I am here is because I know how much NTAG Portland is, in the fight, and how important those engagements with school leaders are. And when I knew that there were opportunities to talk to the Vancouver superintendent this morning, and there's some educators tomorrow, as well as another engagement at one of I think the only high school that we have entry into during Fleet Week, at least that's on my calendar, is a Roosevelt High School, and we'll do an engagement there. As well as being able to talk with each of the team here. But it's that synergy of getting after access to where kids are. And the way that I talked to the superintendent today of Vancouver schools, that resonated with him is, hey, look, we're providing the options, right? What is it that we offer? We offer this incredible opportunity to change your life. It isn't for everyone. Not everyone qualifies, in fact. But if you don't allow the Navy and other services as well to provide those options to kids, they're going into the world uninformed. Mm-hmm. And that resonated. Yeah.
Solid. So now, AE2, I know you have a couple questions for the Admiral.
Yeah, Steve. Sir, I was wondering if with this, with the success we've been having lately, we might go away with the permanent Saturday work days.
Well, I have not mandated Saturday work days, but the way that I have approached working days is each NTAG has, they understand their market, they understand what's necessary to meet mission. My desire, and this goes back to the transition to the annual goaling and stay above the line, is that we can operate, once we're above the line, we can set whatever schedule is necessary to stay above the line. My hope in the long run is that NTAGs are able to use that area above the line in order to manage sailors' time such that we have, some weeks we may have to work 6 days, but some weeks we take 4 days off and we have a training day. I mean, it's like a reset week. That's my hope for the future. As far as the permanent Saturday, it is not my intent that we have people on permanent Saturdays anywhere in the enterprise, but I am very strong on delegating to the NTAG COs the ability to operate their command in a way that works for them, for the mission.
Yes.
That wasn't totally satisfying.
I heard it. I'm good with it. Thank you, sir. My other question was about the fingerprints on the paperwork. We have here in MEPS Portland, we do 6 biometric forms need to be signed with fingerprints. And then I found out, I thought that was all MEPS, but turns out MEPS differ. So like the MEPS in Reno, I think, they do all forms fingerprints except for the 2807. So it takes a good amount of time for me to go in and download those forms from Pride, and then the amount of time it takes to have applicants sign these forms with fingerprints instead of just wet ink.
Yeah.
Is there is all the MEPs going to do the same thing, or are we going to? Is there a way to choose?
Yeah. So I'll take that one back to headquarters when I go back to try to work toward a solution. I have a really good working relationship with MEPCOM. And so I think if I bring this to them, anytime that I've talked to, for you, Captain Carmichael, who's the Western Sector commander, and his boss, the MEPCOM commander, and where we've gotten to like, hey, there's these differences, they've bent over backwards to smooth that out. Or if I've made changes, like when we were changing the way we were doing medical waivers, there were individual MEPs out there like, nope, we're not going to do it that way, that got immediately squished. Maybe I should rephrase that. That got immediately changed to align to how we had given direction to do it. So, yeah. In fact, one funny story. When I first got to command of Navy Recruiting Command, I had taken the nose away from the dock, so they weren't delegated anymore, and I was putting my signature on those forms. The first few times those went out, the MEPS team was like, he's not a doctor, we're not taking it. So we got that fixed.
We are.
Because it's not a doctor's decision, it's a commander's decision.
Yeah.
So going back to your answer or your question, I'm all in to get administrative burdens removed, knocked down, get to standardized across MEPS, and get to where we can be as efficient as possible. I want you to have access to all the forms in one place. I understand that's not true today. I want you to be able to get them signed. I'd love for them to be electronically signed rather than wet ink, ultimately. because once they're digitally signed, not necessarily with a fingerprint, but digitally signed, I think that captures it and continues to hold on to it instead of having to photocopy or scan or whatever you're having to do today.
Good copy, sir.
Yeah. So, sir, before we close out, we have our famous Admiral suggestion box questions.
Oh, okay.
So, sir, I promised a bunch of yeses from the last episode. Don't hold me to it, sir. All right? So the first question is, sir, is it possible we could bring back the 2-for-1 nuke initiative where when you write a nuke, it gets counted as 2 contracts?
There's no need to bring it back because that's how it is today. If you are not being given 2-for-1 credit, then your NTAG leadership is not doing it correctly.
Copy.
So that's a yes, but we don't need to. I don't know how that was. Do you have some calibration
yes.
for me on that one? Ace?
No, sir.
Oh, yeah. So, sir, the next question is it possible to wear our recruiting cookies on NWU uniforms?
As a matter of fact, I have just had recently a conversation with N13, which was my old job that owns uniform policy, to work to get to yes on that. I think the way it'll probably go down as we work toward that, we'll ultimately need to get to a place where it's a soft patch, but I don't know how that's going to work given the way that the recruiting badge changes over time based on wreaths. But we're still working through that. But I think that the development of that will take time, so we may be in a place where we will be able to put the hard badge on. We're not there yet, so don't start wearing it around yet. What we find is there are many, many specialties out there in the Navy that all would like to have their thing on the uniform, and it's sort of really looking at where's the priority. My main argument with the uniform folks' argument, my main pitch was, we do recruiting in NWUs. Mm-hmm. We do recruiting in and amongst other sailors. It is really helpful to be able to visually identify who the recruiter is in the group, right? And so that is, we are working to get to yes.
Copy. Hoo-yah. Sir, final question from the Admiral suggestion box. Sir, when an individual or a sailor is selected for the career recruiting force, is it possible they could attend the CRF Academy prior to them transferring from that command? For instance, if an individual may have 2 or 3 more years at their command, once they receive that CRF, my apologies, once they are selected for CRF, is it possible for them to go immediately to school rather than waiting until the end of that tour?
So my intent is to get to yes on that. Right, that just makes sense. Why would we, if the school is something that we have determined is a valuable element of the career recruiting force, why would we wait 2 to 3 years? Copy. This is all centered around who's paying for what.
Of course.
And people that are watching this that are doing actual recruiting, maybe rolling their eyes at that, but that's one of the things that we have to deal with. I'm working to get to a place where those types of schools are paid for by us, by Navy Recruiting Command, so that we can send people at the right time. On a similar note, I'm working to get to a place where the orders into Recruiting Command for 803R recruiters are point A to point B. You go from your ship or squadron to your ultimate duty activity.
Yeah.
And then, get settled, house hunting leave, whatever you got to do, your territory, you've met your team, and then we send you to Nauru with the intent that you would, once you're done with Nauru, you come back and you start recruiting, right? That there would be a period where it would not, clearly there'll be exceptions to this, but it would not be a normal thing to take a bunch of leave right after Nauru. It would be, take all the things you've learned at Nauru, come back, start recruiting, work on your basic recruiter qual, and start getting contracts, because that's what success breeds success. Winners win.
Yeah.
And if you wait, a couple of months after Nauru, then it's part of the reason why it takes 6 months, or at least it can take 6 months before you're productive.
Yeah.
we need to be productive right away.
Booyah. Booyah. Sir, closing remarks?
Yeah, this is an amazing visit. I am here for Portland's Fleet Week, the Rose Festival, and to engage with educators and really to, spend some time with NTAG Portland, and it's going great, and I've enjoyed it. And I am super excited about how things are going with recruiting nationwide. I'm proud of NTAG Portland for making mission 2 months in a row. 2 months in a row.
Let's go.
Yeah, about to be 3. And a tough market, right? No, for those around the country, Portland is a tough place to recruit. Every place, recruiting is always hard. Don't get me wrong. I know it's hard. It's hard to pick up the phone and get 100 no's to get 1 yes. That's hard. But Portland is tough. And it's not lost on me. So thanks for what you do, both of you.
Booyah. I can't top that. Recruiting Nation, thank you so much for tuning in for episode 8 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only Admiral James Waters. NCC Totemay, out.